Welcome to Liberty FM, the podcast dedicated to all things New York Liberty. I'm Felicia, and I'm joined by my co-host, Francois. This weekend features back-to-back games for the Liberty, one at home versus the LA Sparks, and on the road versus the Atlanta Dream. The Liberty were dominant in both games and had tremendous effort, not only by the starting five, but the bench players as well. Francois, let's get into this first win against the LA Sparks.
Yeah, let's get into it. And even though the LA Sparks are bottom team in the league, I felt like it wasn't going to necessarily be an easy game, especially when you face them almost consecutively with just like one day of rest in between. It's almost like a playoff series. So teams are going to make adjustments. And, you know, they have talented players on that squad, so I knew it wasn't necessarily going to be an easy game. And also we're a bit short and with the roster, Vandersloot still out, for personal reason, even though she was back in New York, and we saw a picture of her with the team in the locker room, so that was really great for her to be there with the team. Sandy said that she's ramping up, so they're expecting her soon. I mean, we cannot place a date just yet, but sooner than expected. And then Benaja Laney was still out with knee soreness, so they only had 8 players against the Sparks. But the first player that comes to mind that really impacted this game is Breanna Stewart.
Yep.
Breanna Stewart reminded everybody that she's the current MVP. And she was everywhere in this game, literally everywhere, both ends of the court.
Yeah, I mean, she pretty much had a stat line for anything you could have a stat line for, I believe, in this game. So, it was just great to see Stewie just back in her game. I know the first part of this season, she's sort of been up and down, especially from 3, and we started to see the 3 ball come alive a couple games ago. But just to see her dominant in this game, she did remind people, like, I'm still MVP.
Yeah.
Like, the crown has not been passed on yet. So I think she's just showing us, like, and she's a shooter. She's going to keep shooting. She's confident, and she knows the ball's going to go down at some point, and it was just good to see her on every end, offense and defense. I mean, to see her first half alone with 5 blocks and monster blocks at that. And
especially one in the second half. We'll get back into that.
We'll get back to the second half one. That was glorious. But to have 5 blocks in the first half and steals and just, what does she have, 25 points in the first half?
I think she had 24 points in the first half.
24, okay, sorry. And yeah, just to see that, and to also just see the team just come out strong. I know with the Sparks, they're going to make the adjustment. And usually the Liberty do have a strong first quarter. This time around, the Sparks took that quarter by about 4 points. But I still wasn't worried for them because I think, the Liberty has just shown how strong they are on the court, and it is clicking. Their chemistry is really clicking, and it is a thing of beauty to watch, not just from Stewie, but from Sab, from JJ, KT. We'll get to KT in a moment, and her phenomenal game. And just Leonie Fiebich as well. Like, she's contributing and getting more comfortable. Yeah, she got the start, this time around. And she's contributing, even if she's not getting a lot of points. Her defense is amazing, and I think just it's an all-around win because Sandy was able to use everyone, and whether or not the bench players got points, they were still crucial in just defending and keeping the score and not letting the game slip away. And so it was just a really all-around just great win for the team led by Stewie, and she deserves it. This was just a great game for her to have.
Yeah, I think Breanna Stewart was mentioning after the game that the Sparks was going to play small ball. And with Cameron Brink out of the lineup with torn ACL, they don't have a lot of options on the inside. So they decided to play small ball. And I think the primary objective for the Liberty was to be disruptive in the passing of the Sparks. And you saw a lot of deflections because the Liberty have players with long wingspan like Fiebich, like Stewart, Jonquel Jones, and you have KT also, who's a strong defender. So they made it really, really hard for the Sparks to just like be able to have ball movement and fluidity in the game. And yeah, Fiebich and Stewart had quite a few steals, which allow transition offense for the Liberty, and they made them pay. The frees were getting in, whether it was Sab, whether it was KG, whether it was Jonquel Jones. And, sometimes the Liberty have those moments we talked about in the previous game against the Spikes where for like 2, 3, or 4 minutes, they're just unstoppable. And I was almost getting worried for the Spikes because the lead started increasing, I think up by 20 or something at some point. And when you have the Liberty at that level, it's really hard for any team to stop them. Really.
And it can go really fast because, even if the Sparks were able to have a lead at some point, even if it's just by a few points, the Liberty locked in, and for like a minute, you just see bucket after bucket after bucket, and it just flips, and it really did flip in this game. And can we just talk about Kayla Thornton, or as Stewie calls her, Kathrila?
Kathrila. That has to be like a trademark nickname
that
for now.
That has to be her name. I mean, the 3-ball for Kayla Thornton, I mean, we always know she's great from the 3-point line. But, she doesn't get as many minutes. Now she's starting, obviously, with Benijah Laney and Sloot out. She's going to have more playing time. But, man, that was just a great game by her. 6 of 7 from 3, 7 of 8 field goal percentage. I mean, she was just efficient in this game. And like they were saying, I think on the telecast, like she's just unconscious from 3.
Unconscious from 3,
And she had the hot hand, so why not keep feeding her? And, it was just a great effort, offensively and on the defensive end by Kayla Thornton. She was just so strong. And, in this game, she showed it. And for everyone to contribute was just huge. But Kathrila, you did your thing. We are so proud of you. You get all the flowers for that game. You and Stewie, they were my top performers yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, Kayla Thornton has never been a bad shooter. It's just that she doesn't necessarily take a lot of them. But I remember last year, efficiency from the 3-point line was pretty good. And even with the Dallas Wings, her previous team, she was also pretty good. But it seems like, as she said in the post game, that she's been working a lot on a shot with the coaches, and that was also something that Sandy Brandello and the coaching staff had demanded from her in the offseason to really like add to a game on offense. And you could tell because she had quite a few games. Breakout games this year where she scored like 20 points or more, and when she's at that level, nothing can happen to the Liberty. I know that sometimes the Spikes were making little runs with Ray Burrell and Zaya Cook, but every time they were sort of coming back, KT came to the rescue with those corner threes, and she did not hesitate. She shot with confidence. And, whether it was Stewie and JJ had an amazing behind the back pass to her, she did not hesitate. She took that shot right away with confidence. It was switched, nothing but net, and that really helped the team. So that was really great to see. The other thing that also continued to amazes me, and I think we're going to run out of word, is that tandem again, JJ, Jonquel Jones, and Sabrina Ionescu. It's almost like they could play with one another blindfolded. Like the chemistry between those two players is literally amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they can find each other anywhere on the court. But I think, you got to give it up to Sabrina and her passing. It is unstoppable at this point. I think she said it was unguardable, which I may have to agree because she has so many great players around her. She has so many options. Mm-hmm. And she's a threat herself. So it's, you may want to try to get the ball out of her hands, but do you want to give it up to Stewie or JJ? Or even if Kayla Thornton is on fire, it's like you pick your poison. But again, Sabrina has been, I feel like in Sloot's absence, she's been the general on the court. She's just provided so much for the team and just kind of running things on the court in a way that gets the team open and they can just do their best because she's getting them the ball. She's making amazing passes herself and spacing the floor and also driving. I mean, the fact that she has these floaters, she can drive to the basket. She's not just a 3-point threat. So you're not just going to sit at the top of the key and just kind of think you can just defend on her. She may take off now. And so just seeing that and seeing the all-around complete player that she is hand for the Liberty and will take them far and hopefully to a chip.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real question on Sandy's hand when Sloot is coming back. Like, what do you do? Because, like, the way they've been playing with Sab as the point guard, like, I really don't see how you're going to change that dynamic and bring Sloot back in the starting lineup as the point guard and Sab as the two guard. I really wonder what Sandy is going to do, because if it was up to me, I'm not the coach obviously, but if it was up to me, I would keep it as it is and maybe bring Sloot from the bench. I know she's a crucial part of the team, but the way the Liberty have been playing in their absence, you really have to wonder. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's going to be hard for Sloot not to start for her unless she decides that herself. I don't see Sandy having her come from the bench. At least maybe to start. When she comes back, she'll probably come off the bench just to get her ramped up with the team. But I think eventually Sloot will start and she'll get back to being, the general. But it's going to take time. She's gone through a lot. Her family, they're going through a lot right now. So until, she ramps up and you put her in the game, you'll see where her head's at. And, you kind of go from there. But I just don't know that I see Sandy just having her come from the bench, like minus the first couple of games for her coming from the bench since she's been out for a few weeks. Yeah, I don't know that I see her starting. I see her starting for sure. And maybe you have her start for just maybe, I don't know, half of the first quarter and then you switch her out. Because that's what Sandy has been doing. She has her start, but then she'll have Doikic or Fiebich, someone else come in like later in the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this season, Sandy definitely reduced the playing time of Vandersloot and try to balance it more with like having either Sab or Vandersloot on the court with some of the bench players. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you see the level like when Sabrina Ionescu was going on the bench, and then you had Ivana Doikic replacing her as the point guard. Yeah, it was almost abysmal the difference between the two. Like Doikic, as much talent she has, she at times is really struggling, and she was minus 20 in this game while on the court. The biggest minus for the team. And she really struggled in that game against the Sparks, like indecision. The pressure that the Sparks were putting on her. She was not able to really handle that, and so you wonder, like, if you have Sab as the point guard and then Sloot coming from the bench, I think that would be really effective. But like you said, we know that Sandy rarely take those kind of decisions, so it would be really.
I mean, unless Sloot wants to do that, unless she, talked to Sandy and is deciding that. I mean, we don't know what direction this is going to go. I do think when you're bringing in people like Doikic, you need to have Sabrina still on the court. I feel like Doikic needs to be the person that replaces Sloot if Sloot starts, but you still need to keep someone like Sabrina out there. She should be the point. Doikic, I think, as frustrating it can be, she has some bright spots. I just think that it's hard because I feel like she may just need more playing time.
I mean, that was probably like the most minutes she had since the start of the season. She had 25 minutes in this game, but she was 0 for 3 from the field, 0 for 2 from the three-point line. She did have 4 assists, but 2 turnovers. And I don't know, it was just like the game was much slower when she was the main point guard. I feel like when she's decisive and just attacks the basket or take like a mid range or a free, you know, she's pretty good at it. But it doesn't happen often, unfortunately. I guess, like you said, more playing time will help her, and then her teammates talking to her to help her like improve. But
I mean, there were definitely moments on the court where I felt like, as the Liberty were trying to speed things up, when she got the ball, it slowed down, and you could see that her teammates were trying to guide her in a way of like, you know, we're going to cut this way or do this. You can see they're still kind of helping each other out on the court, especially when Doikich is out there. And so she's still new and still adjusting to the system, as is Fiebich and Kennedy Burke. And also you still have Marquesha Davis that is learning. And so it's still a learning curve for them all. And so whatever they can contribute is huge. And so for her, I'm just saying for her, when she's out there, I still think you need Sab out there just to kind of keep control of it, because she's quick and she can drive to the basket because she has speed, but sometimes her decision making can be a little off. But I also wonder if that's just, you know, getting used to the team, playing with the team. They did just come from overseas and kind of got chucked right in. So,
yeah, it's true.
You know, you didn't really have a...
But you see that Fiebich has adapted much faster than
Fiebich has
Doikich.
adapted much faster. I think, you know, which, you know, she has the length. I mean, she is an awesome defender. Despite, you know, I know she can shoot threes and she can get to the bucket herself, but Fiebich is an amazing defender.
Yeah.
You know, when you see her on some of these players, and she's not even getting a foul, she's just staying with it, and it's just like, man, she can defend. So she's a great pickup for the Liberty. I'm not saying she's going to have a great game every single time, but defensively, if that's what you got her for, this is a great pick.
She had 7.7 rebounds and 5 assists, like, you know, for, you know, a quote-unquote rookie. And for someone that can literally defend, I feel like almost 1 through 5 in terms of positions she can defend. That's a luxury for the Liberty. And let's not forget that she was initially a first round pick, or I don't know if she was first or second, but she was a draft pick from the LA Sparks, and the Liberty obtained through, you know, different you know, exchanges and stuff like that. But I mean, it was, you know, she was picked in 2020, so that was a while ago. And you know, sometimes teams make gambles. You know, they draft prospects and, you know, hope that in a couple of years they develop. And Leonie Fiebich is one of those players that, you know, became an amazing player, and she didn't have to, you know, adapt for too long to understand how the W works and how to be impactful. So, you know, great game by Fiebich. We'll talk a little bit more about her again for the second game against Atlanta. But overall, even though the Sparks made a little comeback in the fourth quarter, you never felt like the Liberty were in real danger. They ended up winning that game by 10. And I felt like this game, I really enjoyed that game. Like the overall atmosphere, you know, it was Pride Night for the Liberty. And the crowd was really electric. We had almost 14,000 people in attendance. And what was like 2 highlights for me for that day, Breanna Stewart's block in the second half. You know, the Liberty, you know, battling for rebound on offense, kind of lost the ball. Stephanie Talbot and Hamby, you know, ran the fast break. Hamby passed it back to Stephanie Talbot, who went for the layup. And I could see her coming. Like, I mean,
Stewie got legs. She don't got to take many steps.
She got long legs, so she can run and doesn't have to take that many steps to catch you up. And I saw her coming, and I was like, oh my God, is she going to do it? And it went so fast, but at the same time, I could see everything in slow-mo. And then she ran after her and blocked that thing like welcome to the W, like that ad. It was amazing. The noise level of the crowd after that block. I mean, both of them almost went like,
Well, I mean, Stewie went into that stanchion.
I was worried. I was scared for a little second.
I like screamed, but then popped up and was like, "She okay?
Yeah.
Please be okay." Stewie could not get injured.
I mean, the Barclays gave her a standing ovation for like a minute or something.
It was an amazing block. I mean, when you're already up by 20 points and you're putting in that much effort, it's like, not in my house. I don't care how many points we're up by. You're not getting it that easy of a bucket on me. And so, I mean, Stewie played both ends. And that's the thing. She, even with scoring as many points as she did, she's still going to do the little things. She's still aware of what's going on both ends of the court. And she's going to make sure that her team wins. And I think I just love that energy about the Liberty right now is that, when you see them lose, the two people that you probably don't want to talk to are Stewie and Sabrina.
Yeah.
Because they are so serious. And Stewie's more like, she'll talk. But like Sab, you could just tell their demeanor. It's like they hate, and nobody likes to lose. But they absolutely hate to lose. And so I think that it helps them, though, because it gives them that extra shift, that extra chip on their shoulder to come out against the next team and do better. And, like Sabrina said, this isn't even their best basketball, but you see it coming together because I think you see it in spurts. You see it for like a few minutes and then it kind of trails off. And again, it's a game of runs, and that's, what basketball can be. But I think if they can hold that for longer stretches, this team is unstoppable for sure. If everybody is clicking, even if you get 4 or 5, because 4 of the 5 starters were in double digits. But even for Leonie Fiebich, who, I think she only had like 6 points or so.
7 points.
7 points. She still did all the little things that you needed with the assists, the rebounds, defending. I mean, so if you're doing all the little things, you give your team such a great opportunity to get the victory. I
mean, with Stewie with 33 points, Sab with 24 points, KT with 20 points, JJ with 14 points.
And another double-double for JJ.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need like other players to score a lot of points. You just need them to do their job. And I think it was there was an interesting stat that I saw after the game was that with Stewie, Sabrina Ionescu, and Kayla Thornton, scoring 20 plus points, they became only the second trio in franchise history to score 20 plus points in the game. So that was a record-breaking night for the Liberty, and that was really awesome to watch. And the second highlight for me was, should I say, Ellie at halftime, who's now becoming like so big that like
I feel like Ellie can be bigger than the Liberty players, because I feel like there are so many people that come to the Liberty games for Ellie now.
Yeah, but like the significance culturally of what Ellie and the people that work behind the scenes to produce that show at halftime or during timeouts with all the different dances and stuff. The significance of doing something like a medley of Beyoncé songs from the Renaissance album, which, is a tribute to the LGBTQ plus community, the ballroom movement. She had that, everything combined into like 4 or 5 minutes of incredible show.
I just feel like Ellie should just do the halftime show
every single game.
I mean,
you're gonna have to give her a raise for that, but
but when Ellie does it, I mean, no shade to the other halftime performers, but when Ellie comes out, it's a show.
Yeah,
like it is a performance,
and the outfits as well,
and the outfits and all the stuff that Ellie has done. Ellie has taken off. You see Ellie and people talking about her on the news. You see Shade Room, ESPNW, everybody's talking about Ellie. And last year, this was not the case. It wasn't until I think Ellie got on TikTok and then it started to blow up.
Yeah.
And now Ellie's her own phenomenon. I feel like she is bigger than what the Liberty ever thought. And I'm sure they're grateful. I'm sure they're super happy about it. But yeah, Ellie is her own superstar in her own right. And people are coming to the games, not just for the Liberty, but for Ellie as well.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember that short documentary that we saw on YouTube that were talking about the phenomenon that is Ellie and how it whole started. Kia Clark, the CEO of the Liberty, came up with the idea of the elephant. Apparently, when they were building the Brooklyn Bridge, people were skeptical about the foundation of that bridge. So there were people that decided to bring elephants to walk across the bridge to show that, the foundation was solid and you could trust them. And so that's how the idea of the elephant came. And throughout the years, we saw the changes in the outfit to make it more comfortable and stylish. Mm-hmm. And they said also that, obviously, they didn't want to reveal who the person is behind the costume. But they said that it was someone from Brooklyn. And, when you saw them dancing, definitely they represent Brooklyn in many different ways. And when you see people looking up to Ellie, like that mascot is unifying so many people. You see kids, you see, the LGBTQ plus community, the Black community, like so many communities like
just
that
coming together.
I don't see anybody who's hating on Ellie.
And you better not. Like, for what? Man, get out of here. Like, Ellie.
Now they sell the Ellie's braid.
I know, I kind of want to get the Ellie braid. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But, outside of, I know people are wearing it and, swinging it around. But, yeah, Ellie is fantastic. I don't know if they expected Ellie to grow as quickly as she did. But she has arrived, and just get out her way, because she is her, and Ellie is going to do what she's going to do. And whoever's under there, listen, I personally think they're a professional dancer.
Oh, they are.
The stamina it takes to be out here constantly moving, constantly dancing, jumping, all this stuff. I'm like, God bless you, because, woo! I'm tired watching it.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally non-stop all throughout the game.
Energy.
You see Ellie, going, all around the stadium, trying to get the crowd pumped up, going towards the kids and give them a hug or, taking a picture.
Or you hear the fans screaming. Like, we never heard this last year. Ellie could go through the stands and you'll hear kids and stuff like that screaming for Ellie, wanting a picture and stuff. But this year, I can hear the fans from across as a game is going on. And I'm like, who just arrived? I'm thinking, some famous person, some big celebrity arrived to the game, because you hear all these people screaming. I heard all these people screaming across the court, and I'm like, who is that? And I'm like, oh, it's just Ellie going up the stairs saying hi to people. I'm like, Ellie is truly his celebrity status.
Yeah.
So good. I mean, kudos to Ellie, the team, everyone behind it. You guys are doing a phenomenal job, and people love Ellie. She best mascot by far. Yeah. I don't know that I've seen a better mascot in any team. And
Katie was asked after the game about Ellie that came right next to her and Breanna Stewart in the post-game interview with Holly Rowe. Mm-hmm. And she was praising Ellie, saying that it was almost like the 12th person on the roster, because she was sometimes giving that energy to the crowd that that energy to the team. And so it was like a combination that worked perfectly.
Ellie's the 12th player.
Yeah, so, not only does that mascot give energy to everybody and the team, but also representation. Representation is so important. And the fact that so many people feel represented by a mascot, that says a lot about the work that they put in to make it an icon. And I think now the next step, to conclude on Ellie, is for Beyonce to show up at the Barclays for a game now.
See, I would want Beyonce to show up. Yes, I'm a Beyonce fan, but I'm also concerned that Benaja won't play well because she's just going to be focused.
No, listen, if she doesn't give the best performance of her life, if Beyonce shows up to a game, I don't know what will.
I don't know, but I feel like Benaja going to lose the ball on purpose by Beyonce and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I just feel like she might lose her mind because that is her ultimate celebrity. So, I don't know. Ellie will have a time for sure. And Benaja might lose her mind.
Yeah. But you know what? Like, let's, give a little words to the Beyonce's team or the Beehive, to send that video to her, make it viral so that everybody can see the halftime performance that I'm sure is going to make its way online, and for Beyonce to see that and
she's definitely been to NBA games. Not a lot,
yeah,
because obviously this woman's busy, but she's definitely been to a few NBA games. Maybe she can, make it. I know they got houses here in New York. Come on over to a Liberty game.
Yeah, and I think for the W, it would be huge to have someone like her coming to a game. So, just wishful thinking. Who knows? We don't know what will happen, but I definitely feel that can impact in the future whether she'll be there or not. But let's move on now to the second game, because believe it or not, the Liberty, wow, that schedule is something. They were playing back-to-back and literally had to fly to Atlanta probably the evening of, on Saturday after the game against the Sparks to go to Atlanta for another game.
I have to say, yes, it is truly criminal to have a back-to-back in a whole nother part of the country. Like, yes, Atlanta is by flight a few hours away, but still. Like, it's not like you're playing Connecticut where it's a much closer distance. Yeah.
And imagine if they didn't have the charter flights. That would be even worse, because they would spend more time at the airport.
Yeah, and the likelihood is whether or not you got out on a good flight last night, this morning even, like, it's crazy. I'm grateful that all the teams got charter flights now, but having a back-to-back in a completely different state that's just wrong to me. I just feel like if you're going to have a back-to-back, then make it someplace like Connecticut, someplace that's closer for them to get to than all the way in Atlanta. But I digress.
Yeah.
Liberty still got the win regardless.
Yeah, and I think, that's where you see the growth of that team and the resiliency and the level they're playing at. They could have had every reason to lose that game.
Yeah.
Only an 8-player roster, back-to-back. But they didn't make any excuse. And I really actually like how the Liberty started that game to make their life easier. They're facing an Atlanta team that we're not gonna lie, they're not a very good team at the moment. They have a lot of talent on their team, but they're really struggling. There seems to be really a disconnect right now between the players and Tanisha Wright, the coach. They're missing Ryan Howards, who got injured, an ankle injury, unfortunately. So they have their best player out at the moment. Yeah. They were getting Jordan Canada back. That was her first game with the Atlanta Dream today against the New York Liberty. So even though their main player was out, even with her, they've been struggling. And what was really, worrying for me when I saw the Atlanta Dream is their defense. They do have talent. They have people that can score the ball. But defensively, they're all over the place. And I think that the Liberty knew that what they could really make them pay with is, to attack the basket. Yeah. Because it almost felt like every time the Liberty were just driving to the basket, there wasn't, and obviously after having some ball movement, it felt like Atlanta could not stop them.
Yeah, the Liberty had...
they had 62 points in the first half.
Yeah, 62 points. Their field goal percentage for this game was just over 50%. The Liberty were shooting on all cylinders today. Yeah. And it's still amazing coming off a back-to-back. Because, you think tired legs... They're not really going to, play 100% because, but they came out, no excuses. For Atlanta, I think what's concerning is just, how they start game. I feel like when you see them the first half, they do look like they're all over the place. Second half, they have more drive, I think, when they play faster.
But it took them to, put some of the bench players to finally get some energy going. And that shouldn't be the case. That should be your starters that set the tone, right? It
shouldn't be the case, but there's definitely something more than just the team not playing up to their potential and what they should be playing up to, because they definitely shouldn't be losing this many games. I didn't think Atlanta would be a bottom team. I thought they'd kind of be in the middle of the pack.
Yeah. A lot of people saw them as this up-and-coming team because, they made the playoff last year. They have, a lot of things for themselves. They got Jordan Canada. But this year, there's a real disconnect.
There's a real disconnect, and I think it will start with the coach. Because unfortunately, for the coach, it just may need to be a change there. It just probably so. But either way, the Liberty got a huge win. I mean, their largest lead at one point, they were up by 33 at one point in this game. And, the Liberty still played on all cylinders, and everyone contributed. And my highlight...
yes. I know what you're going to say.
In this game, my highlight, because I feel like she needs to play more. But I understand she's a rookie. But Marquesha Davis.
Wow.
I was cheering so hard, just seeing those buckets go down, the block, just being everywhere on the court, and just seeing her teammates so happy for her.
Yes.
JJ, you could tell JJ is like big sister, just so happy that Marquesha is getting up. And she has such a great finish.
Yeah, and great athleticism, too.
Great athleticism, for sure. I feel like you can play her. I mean, Kennedy Burke didn't have a great game. I think, Kennedy Burke has to come out with confidence.
Yeah.
And when she's confident and decisive, she does well. Initially, she was shaky. She had a couple of bright spots, but she was shaky this game. And, yeah, Marquesha Davis... she was doing her thing. And I think this was the team to start that with, because Atlanta is kind of on this shaky route right now. She was able to get around on the court and do what she can do and just help the team, just be that presence to help the team continue their run and not, lose too many points or fall behind in any way. So she was my highlight. Outside of Sab, JJ, they're doing their thing per usual. Which is fantastic. But Marquesha Davis was my highlight.
No, you're definitely right. I mean, she had 13 minutes in this game. I'm not even sure that she had, more than 4 or 5 minutes.
No, this is the longest game she's had thus far.
Yeah. So for her to have 9 points, 1 assist, 2 rebounds, 4 for 8 from the field, and it just gave that extra spark and an extra option for the Liberty, because when you think about it, those past few games, they've only played with 8 players. But I would say, pretty much 7 players, because Marquesha didn't really get any playing time. So for her to be given that opportunity, and she said after the game that, she always stays ready no matter what, and that she's, doing a little extra when she's practicing with some of the coaches after the practice, to make sure that if her name is called, that she'll be ready. And I could almost tell, if you look at her physically compared to the start of the season, she already looks more muscular, and she looks physically ready for the W.
Yeah, she's quick.
And a mid-range and her way she drives to the basket, that's very promising for the future. I mean, it's almost like, you don't necessarily expect much from her for this season, but in the future, she would bring a lot of good things to this team.
She definitely fashioned her game after Kayla Thornton.
Yes.
She definitely did. You can see that in the way she moves and her athleticism on the court. It definitely has Kayla Thornton vibes for sure. And, for her to just get out there and have confidence, she just got out there and did her thing.
She even had a bank shot free in that corner.
Yeah, she's not like a big 3-point shooter or anything. I know she's hit them before, but that's not really a major part of her game. She is mid-range, driving to the basket.
She has a beautiful mid-range shot. Really.
She has a beautiful shot, and I think Sandy, you gotta put her in more. I know. Yes. I just feel like, I know sometimes you feel like maybe against who knows, Minnesota, Las Vegas, Connecticut, I get it. You may not want to test her out there, but listen, when you're playing Indiana, Chicago, and all these other teams, she needs minutes because that's what's going to build her confidence. And coming off of the bench, especially if people like Doikic or Burke don't have a great game, you can use her because defensively, she's also great. She stays with her defender. She's going to be a great presence and a value on the court for Sandy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one thing that I've noticed with this draft is that they're not afraid of anything, and obviously you would expect people like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese to have an impact in this league because of their career in college, but like you see Kate Martin with the Las Vegas Aces or Marquesha Davis, what she showed today. You know, they're not afraid of anything, and they trust in their ability to do well. And I think that goes a long way for those players to have a long career. And I'm really looking forward to the development of Marquesha Davis. And, you know, Sandy, who doesn't necessarily have the reputation of playing her rookies, she trusted Marquesha, and you see almost like I don't know if I should say it, like a motherly kind of relationship.
I do feel like,
but you can tell she really cares about her and the success.
I do feel like I've seen that with Sandy before. I feel like Sandy was like that with Marine last year.
That's true.
She definitely has this motherly approach, motherly in the sense that she really encourages them and pushes them and wants them to do well. And she tries to put them in the right situations. And, you could tell that she's very happy for Marquesha and just making sure that she's ready. And so I get it. Like, we might be screaming like we want to see Marquesha more, but they see more. They see what's going on behind the scenes. They know whether or not she's ready. Obviously, she was ready today. And she's going to stay ready. So, there's going to be games where her name's going to be called and she's still going to get coached by Sandy. And she's also learning this system as well. Like, the starters know the system. Some of the bench players know the system. The people still learning are folks like her, Fiebich, Doikic, even Burke at times too. But they're learning this system day by day. And for her being a rookie, you could tell that Sandy kind of takes her sort of under her wing. You can even see when Sandy calls her up, like Sandy's coaching her, like on the side, like this is what you don't see her do that with any of the other bench players. Like, she's talking to Marquesha, helping her know like what to look for, and so it's just great to see that she's having the support not just from Sandy but from all the other players as well. That she's learning quickly. Yeah,
so great performance by Marquesha. And I think, looking back, especially in the first half, that was so great for the Liberty. What I like with this team is that you mentioned Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu, who you do not necessarily want to interview after a loss because it's in the DNA. Like, they hate losing and it almost makes them sick. But when you have leaders like that on a back-to-back, you know that, they're going to lead your team to a full-on effort. Yeah. And it's almost like Stewie in her presence on both ends of the floor, just like against the Sparks. And then Sab, the way she led that team. It's almost like you felt like they wanted to kill this game from the get-go so they don't have to struggle in the second half. And Sabrina Ionescu, I mean, what a performance she had again today. She ended up with 26 points, 11 assists, 3 rebounds, 4 for 9 at the 3-point line, 9 for 18 from the field, so 50% from the field. That's pretty good considering that she took 18 shots. But the way she commanded that team, what was very telling is that I watched the post-game interview with Tanisha Wright, the coach of the Atlanta Dream, and she was saying that basically her team didn't follow the game plan defensively. And she was saying that, when you go under the screen against someone like Sabrina, she'll make you pay every single time. And she had a couple of threes where you're like, my goodness, like.
But some of her threes also were quite far. When you shooting from logo, it's not really much you can do defensively on that. But also, Sabrina, she's on a whole nother world level right now. I think she's having double doubles herself in points and assists. lately, and she's setting records herself, and it's going to be huge for them down the stretch that she keeps this up, because this is what, when you see them play together, you're like, they could really win the chip. They could really take this. I really believe that. Last year, I believed it too, but I was a little more hesitant because of the Aces and the run that they had. Yeah. I thought with the Aces and how they were looking, I was like, I could see the Aces taking it, and they did. This year, I feel like the Liberty has a much, much better chance just by the way they're playing. And if it just continues to get better, I mean, I don't see who can stop them.
I mean, they're definitely way ahead of last season in terms of the way they play. And, obviously that was going to take some time for them to click as a team. I think that people kind of undermine that. They automatically assume that, you got great players put together, that automatically equals to success. It doesn't. It takes time. Like, the Aces had to fail quite a few times before they won back-to-back titles.
Look at Seattle right now.
Seattle,
they're doing okay. They're in the middle of the pack, but they're not. They still got some stuff to work on.
Yeah, they still have stuff to work on, and you would assume once again, you put Skylar Diggins-Smith, Nika Agumike, and then Drew Lloyd, that it's automatically gonna be successful. No, they also have to gel too. So I feel like, and with the loss in the final last year, that it was a learning curve for the Liberty, and it definitely feel like a level of confidence this year that you had not last year, and everything's starting to click at the perfect time, and I hope that it can really sustain that level all throughout the season. It's still a long way before the last stage of the season, but it's definitely been encouraging. And I don't necessarily have much else to say about this game that the Liberty won by 21, and I kind of already want to project myself into Tuesday with the Commissioner's Cup final against the Minnesota Lynx, because that is going to be a tough challenge. Yeah. Not a lot of people, I don't understand, not a lot of people seem to be talking about the Minnesota Lynx, but they're on the chair this season, and they're a really tough team to beat. They're just like, beat pretty badly the Phoenix Mercury the other day. Yeah. And I feel like it was probably maybe the worst team that we could have imagined in terms of matchup for this cup final.
Yeah, I mean, this year I thought that, Minnesota, I would say outside of them and Vegas, those are the two main threats for the Liberty.
You think right now for the title?
Right now for the title, yeah.
Okay.
Those are the threats. I do see it as either it would be the Liberty, Minnesota, or Vegas. Those are my top three, in that order, actually. So it's going to be tough. I think if the Liberty play with confidence, they could use the last game that they lost to Minnesota, have a little chip on their shoulder, wanting to, get a little bit of revenge off of that. But they got to play smart, and they got to play together, and they got to be smart, because just like they can launch that 3-ball, so can Minnesota. And they can also drive and be real disruptive. We saw Minnesota against the Phoenix Mercury. Even Nafisa Collier got a block on BG, which...
Wow.
At height alone, you're like, wait, how did that happen? But it happened. And so it's a tough team. And, you don't win the chip. It's not easy to win the chip. So you're going to have to go through the best to get there. So this will be the first true test, I think, for the Liberty. Now that they've sort of ramped up to this level, because I believe like the first game they were outmanned for sure. And they got to JJ, they got to other players, and Minnesota got a decisive win against the Liberty. But I think now the Liberty have strung things together, and they're much stronger since that time. So
this is the last time they play against each other, which was like one of the few, the second losses of the Liberty at that time, but probably the worst loss of the season.
Yeah, it was definitely their worst loss of the season. I do think this game could come down to the wire. But hopefully the Liberty can pull it out. I do think that the Liberty can pull it out. Just like Stewie said, let's go get our money. Go get your money. Go get your coin. Let that motivate you however it needs to. Stewie got kids. She got New York rent to pay. It's a lot. So, go get that coin. And yeah, it's going to be a tough game. I think this, for me, just like it was, you saw that matchup between them and the Aces last year in the Commissioner's Cup, and those were the two teams in the final, it would not surprise me that this is the matchup we could potentially see in the final. I'm not letting the Aces off the hook. They could really come in and take it. Now that Chelsea Gray is back, it's a whole other level now.
Yes.
But the way Minnesota is playing, I don't know. Between them and the Liberty, I don't know who can stop them right now, the way both teams are playing.
Yeah, so tough game, tough matchup, whether it's the guards, Kayla McBride, Natasha Heidemann, Courtney Williams, and then you have a lot of, good centers, Nafisa Collier, Alana Smith, the versatility they offers on defense and offense. So it should be a good final. But it's not going to be, unfortunately, at the Barclays Center. I remember when it was almost official after the Liberty won that fifth game for the Commissioner's Cup that they were going to host the final, and JJ was already excited at the idea of playing at home and encouraging everybody to come and root for the team. But just a week ago, we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but a week ago, the announcement was made that the final would not take place at the Barclays Center, but at the UBS Arena in Long Island, because basically the Commissioner's Cup final is on June 25th, but on June 26th, the NBA draft is taking place at the Barclays. And so therefore, it would have been too short, for all the crews to kind of like change the court and set up, the equipment and the setup for the draft. Now, the thing is that it's not like he was, just like a news that the league just find out about, because they're the ones that set up the schedule.
Yeah.
Which meant that back in December, when the schedule was made official and they said that the Commissioner's Cup was going to be a little different this year in the sense that they were going to condense it into 1 month of competition, that instead of having 10 games, they will have 5 games, which means that they will face only the teams in their conference in a short period of time. You knew that, they said the final was going to be on the 25th, and you know that the NBA draft has been taking place every year for the past 10 plus years at the Barclays Center, that if you have the draft on the 26th, that might cause problems in terms of logistics. And so we have Jackie Powell that, had a great article to kind of explain how everything went down with this debacle. Unfortunately, that was not the Liberty's fault. But basically, when the Liberty saw the calendar, they warned the WNBA that there might be a problem because, let's just say we winning the games and get the chance to host, that's going to create a problem with the NBA. So they informed the W that didn't necessarily respond and be like, oh, well, we'll see what happens. And then as we were getting closer and, you see the Liberty winning their games, and then, they won their fifth game that they were going to host. And, it took a week for the announcement to be made that the game would not be at the Barclays. So, it's kind of shocking that it took so long to make the announcement, considering that, you don't sell tickets in the 17,000 arena that people don't necessarily go to for Liberty games to sell all the tickets in 1 week. And when I read the Jackie Powell article, it said that when the New York Liberty offered different suggestions, the response from the WNBA was quite, should I say, bogus or something, or quite unbelievable. So when they, asked for suggestions or for help to kind of figure it out, Kathy Egelberg, the commissioner of the WNBA, said, well, why don't you play the game in the Western Conference team? Which is not, that's not going to be an option. If you earn the right by winning games to host, you're not going to go to the other conference team to play that game. That is not possible. The second option that the Liberty tried to come up with was to use the July 2nd game between the Liberty and the Minnesota Lynx at the Barclays as the Commissioner's Cup game. But, the Minnesota Lynx said, no, this is a regular season game. We do not want to have that option. And there was also an issue with Amazon Prime, who owns the rights of the Commissioner's Cup. And that would have meant that, there was probably other games on that day, and they want the exclusivity where only that game is played on that day so that everybody could tune into that game. But that long story short, that is another debacle for the WNBA after, the announcements with the charter flights, where they make the announcement, but nothing is fully ready just yet. And if you make such a big announcement, you would think that they have figured out everything already to get going. So for this, where you knew in December there was going to be an issue, the Liberty offered different suggestions, and you kind of brush it off or offered some not so smart suggestions, and get to that stage. That is very disappointing from the league.
I mean, last year, I know it was played in
It was
Vegas,
in July, the final also.
But it was played in Vegas. But was that best record or
Yes,
just...
yes, it was best. Yeah,
record?
it was best record, yeah.
Maybe they need to go neutral. Because
that's what a lot of people have said,
it's
yeah.
like you should have just had a neutral place that had nothing on the schedule for this time. Make it neutral. Like, both teams have to fly to a place... it's not ideal for fans that love the Liberty or Minnesota. However, making it in a place that, kind of like you do the All-Star games, like a neutral ground spot that they can both play at. Yes, it's great to have it on whoever can win home court advantage. Yeah, all the better because your fans are behind you, people are there. But with this kind of debacle, every year, like, it's likely these things are going to come up against each other.
Yeah.
I know with the Olympic year...
The Olympics, it makes it definitely harder in terms of the schedule.
Because maybe last year, I'm not remembering this, if the Commissioner's Cup game happened after the draft or before.
No, it was in July, so it wasn't an issue. So, yeah. But it was Vegas that was hosting,
Vegas,
so they didn't have to worry about the logistic of it. So
yeah, but that's something that in the future you're gonna have to think about because there are teams in this league, and when you think about it, it will likely be teams like Connecticut or the Liberty or the Aces, Minnesota, like. You're going to have teams like this that are going to come up and, especially for the Liberty and the fact that they host, the fact that the Barclays, has the NBA draft. I mean, the schedule every year. This isn't, this isn't planned like a couple weeks in advance,
yeah.
So it's just unfortunate, especially for people who are in New York, who are working, the buses are leaving, I think, at like 4, which also doesn't really help too much.
So, just to, clarify on the buses. So, the New York Liberty do offer for fans the chance to have round-trip buses that would take them to the arena and back to either Brooklyn or Manhattan. But as you said, it's a 4 p.m. Bus, which is not necessarily easy for people that are working.
Yeah, people get off at 5 p.m. mostly, or even 6. And so it's like, if you have the luxury to, like, work from home or work remote, and, like, not everyone has that luxury. And so, they're going to try to do what they can. And I know you see the Liberty really trying to push. You see it on their IG. You see them talking about it. Like, they want a lot of people to come. But that's also a hard place. That's not easy to get to, that you got to pay extra fare to take the Long Island Railroad, to get to a bus, to walk to the arena. Like, at that hour and then coming back, like... Yeah,
because it's a Tuesday game. If it was a weekend game, maybe it would have been easier for people.
It's an 8 o'clock game. It's going to likely end after 10 o'clock. Stuff out there ain't running like that. Like, it's not running to the degree that it is at 4, 5, 6 o'clock. So it's a lot, So, carpooling, the buses, all of that's going to be necessary.
But I think, to end on a more positive note, I have to give a shout out to New York Liberty Fan TV, who I felt like had the best perspective. Shout out to him. Check all his contents on social media and his podcast as well, who gave like a really like positive outlook on the whole thing. Yes, it's not ideal. Yes, we would have wanted to, have that cup final at the Barclays, the home arena of the Liberty. But I think he was trying to shift the attentions to the fact that the Liberty earned the right to be in the final by winning those games, and that they need our support, right? And whether it's in Long Island or in another city, we need to show up and show out for that team. They've always praised the crowds for how much energy they give to the team. So we got to show up no matter what. He said that he went to the Commissioner's Cup final last year in Vegas, and, he was ready to do everything for the team that he's rooting for. That's what a fan is. Yeah. And so I think that was really good because, when the announcement was made, I was really disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I was not happy with this. But then when I watched this video, it really shifted my mentality, and I felt like much, more positive about it because, yes, at the end of the day, it's an opportunity to get a back-to-back cup title, and we need to be there for our team. And so we'll be there on Tuesday, and we'll be recapping that game. Just before I conclude, there were a couple of people, like you mentioned, a neutral side. There were a couple of people on social media that suggested that maybe they should have played that game in either Golden State, since they're going to have a team next season, or Toronto, that is going to have a team in 2026. I think that would have been a nice showcase for those cities that are going to have a team.
They should have asked Dolan for MSG.
Well, a lot of people also thought about the Madison Square Garden, which would have made sense. The NBA season is over. But yeah,
you got nothing going on over there.
They got nothing going on there. I don't know. Maybe Justin Timberlake is performing right now at the Garden. But knowing obviously the relationship between Dolan and the Liberty, I'm not sure it would have been a good look to go back out there after all those trouble season where he didn't care about the team. So it is what it is. But we'll be there on Tuesday at the UBS Arena rooting for our team and hopefully for them to get another Commissioner's Cup. We'll be recapping that game. Don't worry. But thank you so much, guys, for your continuous support and for listening to our podcast. You always give us great energy when you give us great feedbacks. Don't hesitate to like and share with people so that more people hear about our podcast and more people listen and encourage the New York Liberty. So thank you so much for your support. And as we always say, Felicia,
let's go Liberty!